to be here, especially sharing the stage with two of my favorite people, Michael Bourne. and Alex Brown. We open our recital. Oh.
Use mic.
What is the mic? Oh, this is mine. Oh, okay.
That is yours.
Can you hear me now? I said before that I am here very happy because I am sharing the stage with two of my favorite people, Michael Bourne and Alex Brown on piano. And we open this mini recital with a composition. Most of the time I say that I was born in the island of Cuba, but very often I say that the half of my heart is Brazilian. I love the music of Brazil. And everything that comes from that beautiful land is something very special. So this is a composition written by Cesar Camargo Mariano, pianist and composer. And I record this piece in one of my CDs. I don't remember which one. So what you have to do, buy all of them. And eventually you will find it. This is called Curumin. And every CD that we do, every concert that we play, is like a journey through the music of Latin America on the wings of jazz music. You know, the music of this wonderful country. This is a country of immigrants. People come from all over the world, including Mexico. And some of them are musicians and all that. Yeah, not exactly, musicians too. So, we want to play something from... Why are you laughing? So this piece, this is my latest composition. I haven't recorded this in any of these CDs that you're going to buy tomorrow. We never played this before, So I wrote this recently, like maybe 15 minutes ago. And, it's based in the national rhythm of Colombia and Venezuela, el joropo. Joropo is a type of dance music from Venezuela and Colombia. And I call La Fleur de Cayenne. So I think if you like it, we are going to record it in our next CD. If you don't like it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Alex Brown. Paquito de Rivera.
It sounds like fun, huh?
We'll have some more. You want to sit down? You want to stand up?
Yeah, okay. I like this Yamaha chair. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Can I endorse these chairs too? Yeah, they're great, huh?
This book by Paquito is called Letters to Yito, Lessons from a Life in Music. This is really based on something, many of the most profound things that happen to us are something simple like getting a letter. You got a letter from somebody that touched you and you didn't know who it came from. And so this whole book is written to this person
Exactly.
you've never gotten to meet.
I received a call from the editor of that book. He's the president of Restless Books, Ilan Stavans. He's an old friend already. He was the person who did publish my first book in English called My Sax Life. And then he called me again and he said, you know, I would like you to write a book about of letters with a student who wants to know if it's worth it to fulfill, to follow a career as a musician. So, man, that flashed me back to once that I received a little note from a student who wanted to know exactly that. And he said, you know, he asked us what type of mouthpiece you use, the regular, questions by people who play that instrument. But the main thing, he said, do you think it's worth it to pursue a career as a musician? But I was 16 years old. I was having a ball being a musician, man, especially because of all those girls around us. Jesus Christ, man, that was something. And we are having fun. What can I, 16 years old, you are not prepared to give lessons to nobody or to recommend anything. Because you are afraid that you recommend something and it's backfire him, he's going to blame you. So, but the other problem was that the letter or the little note that he sent, he had no sender. So he just signed Yito. Yito. These thousands of Yitos in Cuba. So 50 years later, that noise is happening all the time. You see, you hear that? You hear that thing? Yeah. You will hear it again later. In the recording.
It's not me, is it?
No, it's not you. So 50 years later, I received this proposition by Ilan Stavans to write this book, and I was so inspired, I started remembering things that happened to me that these students will find in the path of this wonderful career of us. So that was the seed of Letter to Yito. I had so much fun writing this book that I think you can have some fun reading it.
It's full of things that I actually didn't know, and one of them is that I didn't know that reeds for your mouthpieces come from one particular species of bamboo.
Yeah, Anarodonta. It have a very strange name. Irodonta. Yeah, only that you can make reeds only for that type of bamboo.
And he was talking about there are some reeds that are synthetic, and you tried them, but you're a natural kind of guy. You want the real thing, the bamboo.
When you find one of those reeds that, those plastic reeds that work, it's like being in heaven. It's like when one of those old cars that I love, when they start, those are marvelous. You go around with a MG 1952, but most of the time when you do like, it don't sound the same thing with these reeds. No.
There's lots in this book about the history of Cuba. You learn things all about the world because one of the leitmotifs of this book is traveling, and he's been doing this. I used to tease him because I'd run into him. We knew each other, but I'd run into him in Germany or in Italy or on the island of Barbados. I never ran into him in New York for years. And now I see him all the time. That's fine.
Yeah.
But he's a world person. And that's sort of what this book is about. It's also about being in exile. And that's how you see the world, because you have to leave your home behind.
Yeah. Being an exile is you're not, it's like being an orphan. The orphan is never completely happy. You know, it can be adopted by other family, blah, blah, blah. The same thing with the exile. All my life, I dream to be a musician in the city of New York. All my life. I am very happy that I am here in New York. But something is missing in my heart. Something is missing. And you call that your homeland. That is what it is. Of course, it's a lot better to be in this side than on the other side, you know, in the dark side of the moon. But and the other thing is traveling. I love traveling. I cannot live without that. Since I was a kid, that my father came home with that LP of Benny Goodman live at Carnegie Hall. That was recorded in 1928. Or 38? 1938. It never came out on the 1956, according to what Joshua Becken told me. Yeah, remember that. Joshua Becken told me. And I was so impressed. I was maybe like 8, 9 years old, and I asked my father, what is that? And he told me, that is swing music. He never called it jazz. So this is swing music. This is the Benny Goodman Orchestra in the city of New York at Carnegie Hall. So when my father said Carnegie Hall, I understood carne y frijol. Carne y frijol. What did the music have to do with what my mother cooks, man? So he's playing to me, and always I dream to be here. But I am very seldom here because always I am traveling around the world, and that is what I love to do, you know, traveling and know different people around the world. That is what great part of that book is about traveling and meeting people all over the world. You know?
You've met an extraordinary number of people, and they're all in here. It's one chapter. It's just like, and then I knew this person, then I knew that, and each little paragraph is a wonderful story in itself, and that's great. But again, what you said was you were in I think Panama, and you heard somebody playing Cuban music, and you wrote, I felt proud to see the passion, love, and joy my country's artists had spread all over the world. A wandering people's only source of happiness is its unnerving, sweet, and sensual music. And that it's the music that still takes you home.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You know that there was a great folklorist called Lydia Cabrera. Lydia Cabrera was a writer who wrote only about Afro-Cuban religions and music and all that. And she was sent to Paris in the 20s to study something there. I don't know, literature or something in Paris. And she said a very descriptive phrase, and said, I discovered Cuba at the banks of the Sena River. So the same thing happened to me with the Hudson River. Yeah, because in Cuba I didn't listen to Cuban music or anything. Well, everything, the music was in the air.
Yeah.
There I listened to Frank Sinatra and the Count Basie Orchestra and Charlie Parker. I didn't know anything. I didn't want to know anything about Cuban music. So I discovered Cuba at the banks of the Hudson River. That happened to many exiles, you know. So.
One of the great things about knowing him is knowing Brenda, because they throw great parties.
Oh, yeah.
And she cooks her brains out. There's a feast at there are events of eating at Paquito's and Brenda's house in New Jersey. And this, I get from this, because when you grew up, you were always hungry.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Well, one of the best stories in here is about, you could make a whole movie out of this one story, but he went and got a black market beefsteak.
Oh, that's
And he didn't know how to, he had to get it from there to home to cook it, and he stuck it inside of his saxophone.
the bill. Inside
The bill, and then put that in, and his case looked like a little coffin. It was built for him and everywhere he went, he was being waylaid by all kinds of people who kept threatening to get into your saxophone and take your beefsteak. And how are you going to get this thing home? Because you're stopped, even by the police even stop you. And it's very funny. And then, of course, there's that moment when you go, how long has this beefsteak been in here? And will it kill me when I eat it? You know? But still.
That was the day I met Dizzy Gillespie, actually.
Yeah.
When I arrived home and found that letter.
Oh, right. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Well, that was sort of the same way with Ray Brown told a story that he had a phone call and said, this is Dizzy Gillespie. He goes, yeah. He said, I heard you play bass and that you're good. He goes, okay. And he said, why don't you come on down to, and he named some place. And he showed up, and it was the gig. And Ray was in the band from that moment on. I mean, I heard you were a good player. Come play in my band now. We're going to go traveling now for the next 6 weeks.
Dizzy Gillespie used to do that.
Absolutely.
Hiring people in the street.
Amazing. No,
I saw him hiring a baritone player in the street, and he invited him to come to play with us in the gig. And the guy showed up and played horrible. This is Dizzy. But why you hire that guy? You can call to play with you. Jasha Heifetz if you want. Anyone would love to play with you. Man, what I heard him play, he played perfect. Probably he learned that, he practiced that piece forever, and then he played that piece perfect. But that was it. The rest was horrible. And the guy was so enthusiastic, and Dizzy was such a great, very nice man, that we had to suffer him for 4 hours in that gig.
Paquito and I, he knew him even better, but I knew him a long time too, was Dizzy. And we could sit here for several hours and tell you nothing but Dizzy Gillespie stories.
Yeah.
But I'm going to read to you one of Paquito's stories from this book. And this was a scene actually at the viewing at the funeral of Dizzy Gillespie, and friends, all were hanging out, and there's the viewing of Dizzy Gillespie, and they're looking down, and there was one piece of jewelry Dizzy always wore on his chest. It never took off. He wore it with a tuxedo or a dashiki or even a bathing suit. Our mutual friend, Jacques Bouillal, acquired it in 2005 at an auction in New Jersey, but then it seemed to be an irregularly shaped calcareous stone. By the way, I never see the word calcareous before your book.
No, me either. I didn't do the translation on that book.
Oh, okay. Because for someone whose English is a second language, English is my first language, and there's some words in here I've never seen before.
Calcareous, I like that.
But witty and wonderful. But anyway, it was 3 or 4 inches long, beautifully intertwined with a sort of gold net and attached to a hoop that hung from a thick chain of the same metal. And someone right behind me shouted, "Look at that! They've hung the mammoth tooth that African king gave him around his neck." I thought to myself, well, he can't be talking about the moon rock that Dizzy told me he got from NASA. Dizzy's cousin, Boo Frazier, walked away from Lorraine to join the group around the sarcophagus and appeared surprised. African king? Mammoth? Well, he told me it was a petrified finger from a volcano eruption in Pompeii.
He was a liar.
Lorraine herself, she told him that she thought it was a kidney stone from a sperm whale that Dizzy's friend Charlie Whale brought them from Greenland. Or you never know with Dizzy. This here? Oh, it's my beloved uncle. I mean, rather, it's what's left of my Uncle Elmo. That's what Dizzy said in an earnest to an exotic television presenter who was interviewing him live on TV. Your Uncle Elmo? What on earth do you mean, she asked. Well, yes, my Uncle Elmo was an incorrigible cannibal. A puzzled look came over the lovely face of the light-skinned black woman as John Burks Gillespie, continued. Well, as you know, all of us blacks are cannibals, even though the majority of us have learned to control our impulses in order to fit into civilized society, right? The reporter's eyes widened and her jaw dropped almost down to her chest as Dizzy continued, straight-faced. Things stayed more or less under control until one day several of Uncle Elmo's neighbors began to disappear from his fashionable neighborhood. And although the police had no idea what was going on, our family knew full well the reason for the disappearances. The host's pupils dilated even more. In those days, people were celebrating New Year's Eve, and since the crisis became unmanageable, all the members of our family came to a dramatic decision. There was such silence in the studio, you could hear the interviewer swallowing air. Dizzy took a deep breath as he twirled the jewel around his fingers. He gazed downward at the floor, and looking up suddenly right into the eyes of the girl, who now seemed to be in shock, he pronounced very somberly, I remember that night. All the women in the family accompanied the main dish with a delicious menu that consisted of yellow rice, avocado, watercress salad, and red beans that our uncle had learned to savor after spending a few years in Puerto Rico. He worked on the island as a general manager of the San Juan morgue. Uncle Elmo was a devout Christian, so after Grandma recited the proverbial prayer, we ate him roasted for Christmas Eve dinner. And since Uncle was so little and chubby, he looked like a piglet with an apple in his mouth. You know, the way you serve it traditionally on festive occasions. The reporter, badly concealing a grimace, was at a loss for words. She shrugged her shoulders and gave a sigh that sounded like the snarling of a beast about to be sacrificed. After dinner, each of us kept a piece of Uncle Elmo. Now, as a personal memento, his brother Jonah, who was a great silversmith, stayed in his basement all night and part of the following morning, designing a beautiful piece of jewelry like this, one for each member of the family. Oh, Uncle Elmo, how we miss you. Dizzy concluded with his gaze glued to the tips of his fake ostrich skin boots and an expression of pain and nostalgia across his scrunched up lips. For a few seconds, time seemed to stand still. There was absolute silence in the studio. A moment later, Dizzy looked up with those mischievous child eyes darting around to relish the stunned faces of his audience. The producer shouted, "Cut!" To general laughter. Said the trumpeter, laughing loudly, "Ha! If you can believe that, you can believe anything!"
That's a great story, isn't it?
I think it's time for you to play something
Oh,
Gillespian.
I think we should play something for and by Dizzy. I want to take the opportunity that we have a great pianist here to. In 1993, Dizzy Gillespie passed away. It was a very sad moment for all of us because everybody loved him. you know. Even Uncle Elmo. And that man was an inspiration even the day of his death. I feel inspired to write the piece for him. And it's a bossa nova. Because you know how much Dizzy loved the music of the illegal aliens do. No. So I call it this piece, I Remember Dizzy, or A Night in Englewood. I think it's something that is important to mention. Usually, it's only mention the name of the composer and sometimes about the lyricist, but quoting the great Duke Ellington said that good arranging is like recomposing. And this is a great recomposition, I believe, a great arrangement written by one of the greatest vibraphone players of all times, the great Dave Samuels. And I think he deserves it. Say something, man.
Paquito, you're there.
What do we play? Let's play another of those compositions that is in a CD that you can't remember, but you know what to do with the CDs, buy all of them. So, this is a composition that I was forced to compose by my wife. Yeah. So, we're going to play that piece, but towards the end, you will notice that I didn't write this piece by myself. I got some help from a composer that many people insist that he was German, and you will notice immediately that he really was from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And his real name was João Sebastião Bach. You used to call him Joãozinho. So this is To Brenda with Love. With all my love.
Alex Brown. And I called him at the outset a one-man party. I have truly never known anyone else in this world as joyous as Paquito de Rivera. Thanks to our friends at Yamaha, and thanks to you all, our friends at the Jazz Leadership Society. You enable us to stay on the air and keep having wonderful events like this here at Yamaha. The next will feature Cyrus Chestnut. And otherwise, keep on listening to 88.3 FM and WBGO.org.